The Industrial Revolution was a period of change for the economy and society. It took place during the late 1800s and the early 1900s in America.
The lifestyle during the Industrial Revolution was hectic. There was hunger and malnutrition. Because food prices went down, people enjoyed buying more food, clothing, cooking utensils, and more. Although food prices went down, many families still were struggling to earn money, so women and children were sent to work. Many factory owners were happy to take in these workers because they required little pay. Children were able to work with machines easier than adults because they had smaller hands. This was another reason why factory owners accepted children to work in their factories. Families lived in crowded, small, single-roomed houses including 8 to 10 people.
The technological boom in the 19th century contributed to the growing industrial strength of the U.S. This resulted in rapid urbanization or growth of cities, mostly in the Northeast and Midwest regions.
The Transcontinental Railroad was a revolutionary idea. Having a railroad stretch from California to the rest of the United States would be unheard of for that time. The two major railroad companies, Union Pacific and Central Pacific, each started from opposite sides of the nation and kept building until they met. After completion, it was such a success that by 1900, 4 other transcontinental railroads were built. A monopoly is a business owned by a single owner or group of most or all means of selling a good or service. During the Industrial Revolution, a strict monopoly was the most common. The owner was in complete control of the entire market. This helped eliminate smaller businesses that were viewed as a threat. This enabled owners to set any price desired for their products because no substitutes were available. John D. Rockefeller was a predominant figure in the growth of monopolies. When Rockefeller was only 20, he built his first oil refinery in western Pennsylvania, which became the largest in the country in a span of 2 years. As a result of Rockefeller's aggressive businessman qualities, he began buying out his competitors. In 1882, he had nearly established a monopoly in the U.S. oil industry. Other well-known figures who contributed to the growth of monopolies were Andrew Carnegie, who made a monopoly off the U.S. steel industry, J.P. Morgan, and Cornelius Vanderbilt. In the late 19th century, social philosophers offered a new explanation for Carnegie's success. They called this new theory social Darwinism. Based off English naturalist Charles Darwin's theory of biological evolution, this theory explained that a process of natural selection. It exposed the less suited individuals and enabled the best adapted to survive.
In the labor unions, people started working for a shorter amount of hours, also gaining better pay. The working conditions improved, giving the workers a better working area and experience. Some tactics these unions used were strikes, picketing, and boycotting companies for better conditions.
Although children had been servants and apprentices throughout most of our human history, child labor reached new heights during the Industrial Revolution. During this time period, children often worked endlessly for long hours in dangerous factory conditions, and that too for a small amount of money.
Working conditions during those times included long hours for workers, extremely low pay, a danger-filled crowded workspace, and extremely hazardous work without the proper safety regulations. Millions of immigrants entered the United States during the late 19th and early 20th centuries to achieve a better life and others to escape the difficult conditions suffered in their homeland. On the other hand, some immigrants were known as birds of passage, whose goal was to temporarily stay in the U.S. to earn money and then return to their homelands.
The most prolific evidence of the Industrial Revolution impact on the modern world is seen in the worldwide human population growth. Throughout the Industrial Revolution, the population growth rapidly increased, and by the time of the Industrial Revolution, there were more people than ever before due to the 18th century agricultural improvements.
Innovations. Modern technological innovations during the late 1800s included the assembly line, telegraph, radio, and the telephone.
During the Industrial Revolution, there were several natural resources that were used. Coal was mostly used to power machines such as boats and trains. Another important resource was iron. Iron became very important when an Englishman named Henry Quart invented a technique to roll raw iron. It allowed iron to be cut into different shapes and sizes, which then enabled the iron to be used for different things such as heavy machinery.
The Industrial Revolution was fueled by not only men, but several women contributed as well. Single and married, women worked hard to find waged work outside their home. Women mostly found jobs in domestic service, textile factories, and piecework shops. They also even worked in the coal mines. For some, the Industrial Revolution provided independent wages, mobility, and a better standard for living. For the majority, however, factory work in the early years of the 19th century resulted in a life of hardship.